Now, can you record to the cloud? All
There we
right,
go.
we did it. Hey, everybody, happy summer or winter, depending on which hemisphere you're in. And welcome. Welcome to the virtual Dalcroze meetup. What number is this, Veronica?
Number
31?
30.
30.
30.
30. 30. If we had just put all these together in 1 week, we could have done all of this in less than a work week. They're just nonstop BDMing. It's so great to have spread all these hours out with everyone over the last year and a bit. We are here together in our last meetup of the summer. Is that right?
Mhm.
So this is our last scheduled meetup before the fall. In 2 weeks, we have a masterclass, our last masterclass of the summer with Jeremy Dittis. But today we are just so excited to have everybody together and to get one more good sort of coming together before we all turn to the fall, which really I think is pretty much the point of today's conversation, to try to talk about that a little bit. Before we get into all the getting intos, let's do our traditional say hi to everybody. So let me pull up some breakout rooms here and we'll get everybody into a small breakout room today. When you get to your breakout room, will you say hi? If you're willing, share your name, share where you're located, and who do you teach or who do you wish you taught? I'll call you back in 3 minutes. Short meet and greet. You ready? And go. What happened? Let's try again. Ready and go. Hold on, Alan. You seem Alan, go to room one. All right, and we're back, and we got Selma Odom with us, and we've got all the good friends. Well, if you have clicked the link in the chat, you should be able to find the agenda for today. Veronica, do you have any other announcements? Do you want to make some announcements here, and then we'll...
Well, we are continuing with another season. So starting in September, we'll have more master classes and more meetups. And that will be announced very soon. So just stay tuned. And as always, invite your friends. Um, I think if anyone has some brain space to think about how we reach people, we mostly stay in touch with the email newsletter, but some people find us only through Facebook, and periodically I invite them to join the mailing list, but I don't know if everyone does. And so, I think as we think about how can we best serve people who are interested in this work, we're always welcome to your ideas about how we communicate and how we set that up.
Very good. The masterclass roster for the fall is now 99% confirmed. I think, I mean, pretty much together. And so we're really excited to send out, to tell everybody who the names are and who's coming. But it's a pretty cool lineup. Some really exciting teachers and some people that I bet most of you haven't worked with. And yet outstanding. So really, I think it's going to be a great fall. I'm very excited about it. I just got the last confirmation yesterday, and so we just have a little bit of behind the scenes organizing to do, and then we can send out a note that tells everybody what's going on. So stay tuned. Well, the plan, as you see in the agenda, is to do a couple little breakout rooms. Take a couple minutes to think about the following. So if you haven't clicked on the link in the chat, please do so, so that you can see the prompts here for some conversation. The idea here, well, if we just read together number one, what are the opportunities and restrictions in the teaching you have coming up in August or in September, in the fall? So what are the new opportunities and what are the restrictions that we can get into? Or we might sometimes think of it as what is being either supported or revealed and what is being pushed away or hidden or restricted. So we so you might think about those combinations as a point of conversation. Number two, what sorts of needs might our students have? How can we adjust our activities to serve that? And so we can think different settings will require different things. Are you back in person? Are you in person with masks and distance? Are you still on Zoom? Are you hybrid in some way? Do you expect it to flip-flop back and forth? Like every different one of those scenarios is going to have a different set of needs. And we've all learned a lot over the last year, not only about how to teach virtually, but also about what we missed about teaching live. And so I think when we think about what are the needs that our students have, some of that will fall into here. And then number three, how do we respond to students who come for in-person learning for the first time in over a year? So what does it mean to reintroduce any of our communities to the live classroom? Or to reintroduce them now to Zoom, but Zoom 0.2, if you happen to be back, we expect, even for the classes that are, those of you who are teaching in Zoom, if your students have already had a year of that or some amount of that, the beginning is always the opportunity to restart. We're going to set the agenda. And so we would be able to start, if you're in Zoom, we'll be able to start in Zoom saying, I know last year was like this, but this year is going to be like this. And the same thing with returning to being live. We can say, I know you remember 2 years ago being live, but what you didn't know was that now live is like this. And so it's a great opportunity for a reset. And so we might think about in what ways would we like to reset. So this is what Veronica and Emma and I call the super breakout edition. When we plan the meetup, not of 2 or 4 people who each have 5 minutes to share, but where we know from the beginning that it's just going to be, we're all just going to do some breakout rooms and we're going to come back and report on what was the discussion. So when you go to your randomly assigned super breakout room, do not feel pressure to talk about all 3 of these things. You might start by just with your crowd, see what anybody's in the mood to talk about. If your conversation migrates away from the 3 and you realize you end up talking about something else, it's probably just fine. And we'll be curious to hear what you got into. But if we could keep it sort of around the idea of returning to school and knowing that some things have changed from last year to this year. So I think we're going to take 15. Does that sound good, Veronica? So by my clock, that means at 1/2 the hour, everybody will be called back, and then we'll ask each of the groups to report, and then we'll have a little bit of time to talk as a crowd, as a community, about any of the things that were shared. I will not be in one of the breakout rooms. I'll be here monitoring the feed in case a latecomer comes, and then I can scold them for being late, and then I'll push them into one of your breakout rooms. Okay, so here we go. Break. I'm going to reshuffle your breakout rooms. 3 rooms? 3 rooms of 4 or 5? Sound good? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. There's a room of 3. 2 rooms of 4 and a room of 3, or do you want 2 rooms? 3 rooms? 2.
3 rooms. More people will talk.
There you go. Exactly. Ready, set. You have 15 minutes. I was just thinking that one of the advantages of Zoom is that I can assure that everybody comes back from the breakout room on time. One of the things that happens at Carnegie Mellon every summer is one of our regular practices in the pedagogy classes will break our crowd up into small groups and send them away to go be creative. And then they have to come back and show us the lessons they all invented in the not enough time we gave them. And we do that regularly, but it's always really hard to get everybody to come back because they get so excited about the things they're working on that they want to keep going. And here in Zoom, pa-bam, everybody's here and on time. Welcome back. So what did you talk about? What was going on out there? What was everybody getting into?
Well, Isabel was in the middle of a sentence. I kind of want to hear the end of it, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we should start with room 3. So
Okay.
room 3 was Veronica, Isabel, Fabian, Wendy. Isabel, why don't you start and finish your idea, and then maybe you or someone else can tell us what was going on in room 3.
Yes, hello. I'm Isabel. I'm from Mexico. I was talking to my roommates that I was sharing ideas with one colleague, and I was saying to her that here in Mexico it's very difficult for music teachers because if you offer your services, they ask always like they want a product. What can the children do before 3 months? On 1 month, what can they do? But what level can they achieve, or how many instruments they are going to play? Oh my God! And I am like, it's not that simple. It's not difficult, but it is a process that the children must do with I don't know, calma, not rushing the process. And she said to me, is music learning or any artistic discipline is a process, not a product. So many people, a lot of people here in Mexico, they search for a product. So we struggle a lot with that, and now that with this whole situation around the world, people start to realize that, sorry, my English, that it is a process, not just a product that look, the kids can do dun dun dun. No, it's like they had fun during while they were learning that three notes. But why only three notes? Well, they have 5 years. So how can I explain to you that? So I think it's one good thing that happened in my place, because I live in a little town. I don't live in a big city.
Yep.
And I am like, I have hope that more people realize that it's not that they are going to learn how to play. Yes, that is one thing, but they are going to to um how do you say, adquirir
Acquire.
acquire skills that will help them in every other aspect in their lives. So well, I am hopeful. So that was my my idea that I
It's
wanted
cool. It's
to
cool
share.
that
Yes.
the pandemic made people more open to that idea. That's, that we maybe see the value of having fun and having something that you do every week that brings you enjoyment, that is not connected to the coronavirus, and that people see that that's just as important as being able to play the three notes at the end of the class.
Very good. Anything else that just for the first start here that room 3 wants to tell us that you got into talking about?
Fabian, maybe? If you could unmute, we can't hear you.
Yeah, we were in an out room with Wendy too, who is listening today, if I'm right. Otherwise, Wendy, you can always share. I remember from Veronica that she is teaching again children, and she could use singing. She could use the singing and describe the difference, because the imaginary world that we try to reach or open and share with the children needs words, needs pictures, and to work with masks and not being able to sing is reducing the communication and the sharing, if that's what you said, right? And another aspect that Veronica mentioned was a certain fear about children who are not vaccinated, because if in-person teaching is taking place now, we become kind of responsible too about spreading the virus or keeping it contained. So that was something I remember from your what you said for your contribution. I'm not teaching children since 2 years, and I'm looking forward to have in-person teaching with adults very soon. And my point was the expectation that we as the teacher have to give a lot of space, first of all, to share, maybe with words, maybe with silence, sometimes in between, what we have gone through and what people have experienced, what kind of challenges. I used the word sensitivity. My expectation is that we might meet again with a higher level of sensitivity and respect and caring for the other. And I'm sure that caring for the others is anyway a big part of our work. You cannot do a Eurythmics lesson with other people, with students, if you or we don't care for each other. If we have leading, following, it's all about caring for the others. So there might be another quality of being together in one room and sharing the work and the experience with music and movement. That's one of my expectations.
Very good. Thank you, Fabian, and group 3, room 3. Let's hear a little bit from room 2. Alan, Catherine, Emma, Anita. Can you share a little bit of what you all talked about?
Shall I go? And then if I don't forget any bit, Emma, go for it. We talked about a similar sort of thing about the lines being very blurred. Having taught online for so long, then going back into person feels like you're coming out of it, and but we're not out of it, so you can't process it, you can't actually stand away from it and see what's gone on. We're still very much in the middle of it, and September could be worse than what we've got at the moment, so we're still sort of. And then even with the best will in the world, when you've got a class and you set up your this is how it's going to be, every decision you make, you're sort of, is this risky, is it not? Emma was talking about trying to demonstrate on her flute and then thinking, well, actually, this is putting me at more risk. And we've all got examples of double vaccinated adults who've caught COVID and therefore can pass it on to unvaccinated children, and just where the risks are, and how you find that not only for yourself but for everybody in the room, other teachers, other pupils as well. What else did we talk about? About the needs for the children, and particularly certain age groups probably feeling like they've missed out more than others. I think the very young ones probably haven't so much because they're quite playful in everything they do, but the sort of, I don't know, 8 to 15-year-olds maybe have missed out more, because if you put in the 2 years that we've been through and the opportunities they haven't had and they feel like they're behind, then how to manage their own perceptions of feeling behind. Alan was talking about university students, I think, also this feeling behind, and how we let them have their space to explain that, and then how we as teachers manage that and bring our community together with everybody having had very different experiences. So yeah, we just came out with more questions than than we went in with. Sorry.
No, there is nothing to be sorry at all for. I don't think any of us have any answers, but it is really great to be thinking about just all the different layers that are going on and the different ways that we might try to be sensitive, both to be able to care for our students, care for ourselves, and to be supportive in our environments. Room one, Adriana, Marlene, Mitas, and Selma. Come on, you can be courageous. Somebody unmute.
We started off talking about the uncertainty of this up and coming semester. We could be hybrid, we could be in person, we could be totally virtual. And what the other definite point, where is she? Brought up, yeah, that's Maita was saying that not many people understand what Dalcroze is, and they're product oriented, and it's quite a challenge when we're all involved in a process. So that's a big concern for Maita for the upcoming year. And what else did we talk about?
We talk about somehow during the pandemic, we felt the necessity to play more with our students, because being at their houses locked down make them feel like we need to learn and at the same time have fun and enjoy what they are learning. So my position is that I learn is to be more flexible with them, not going into one method for everyone. So learn about the individual necessities of my students and give them what they need, starting from the joy of playing and learning at the same time. So that's what I love, Dalcroze.
Very good. One of the things that Veronica and Emma and I talked about as we were planning for today, we were joking about Dalcroze and puppies. So here's the new puppy at the Neely house. The little one is Stanley, and the big one is Winston. And here Stanley's just a couple weeks old, 12 weeks or so. Winston's about 100 pounds. Then Stanley was up to 30 pounds a couple weeks later. And then he's up to 37 pounds a couple weeks after that. And then he's about 60 pounds now. That's my son, my youngest son, holding him. Here, I'll show you really quickly. Wait, where is it? Oh, here. So I don't know if I've shared these pictures another time or two, but here was my outdoor classroom in the spring and the fall, but this was where I was teaching my outdoor classes with my university students. And so they're walking with papers. There's my little setup, my FM radio station. And I guess that day I didn't have my keyboard out. And so they're walking and listening. And there's Stanley. He made his first trip to campus. And so he hung out with me for that whole day. He was a very good little puppy on campus. And spent most of the day right there, right at my feet, as he did it. I think we got to talking about the puppies just because we were thinking about how different it'll be in many ways to have had one set of routines. We started the VDM, really. The whole point of this conversation is that we were freaking out. We didn't know what was going to happen, and we didn't know how to adjust, and we had no systems. And we had systems before, but they were obviously not going to work. And so we all had this very uncomfortable transition. But then I think in many cases, we did find some groove. We found some ways to cope, some advantages, some nice things. One nice thing was that I was home with my puppies. We got to be there with them and watch, just cuddle and be together. And now all of a sudden we know that there will be some transition as we go, as I have opportunity to leave home and go back to teaching in person. And so again, we're thinking I love that so much of the conversation so far has been about how do we accommodate the needs of the students, acknowledge, how do we sort of discuss a little bit of what we've all been through, and then start to reframe what's coming. I wonder if anybody has any thoughts about you or about your colleagues, or what it means to sort of be changing or upending our routines personally as we sort of start to go back. And, you know, as teachers, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about ourselves. I think our first nature is to think about our kids and what do they need, but there has to be some amount of self-care or at least thoughtfulness going in, or we burn out, you know, and can't be giving our best. So anybody have any, does that make anybody think of anything? Catherine?
I had a really interesting conversation with Catherine Smith in Perth, Western Australia, about this kind of thing really recently. And her theory, and I think I agree with her, is that teaching Dalcroze on Zoom is much harder than being a participant. She and I have been in the same group having some lessons as well. And when you've done it before, you can do it in your own house and feel like you're getting as much out of it. When you're teaching it, I think you're sending all your energy into this void and you're hoping that some of it is coming out. And I've had 6 weeks back live, and that's the thing I've noticed the most, is just the joy of being able to look into somebody else's eyes and know that what I'm saying is being received in the right way, and how that changes my teaching. So yeah, so her point is it's been hard for us, much harder than it has been for my students. And we've just finished term and I've had some lovely comments from my students. It was fun when we did it in person, but it's been just as fun online. And I haven't quite felt that tangibly, but they've obviously felt that it's been great. But yeah, I think this whole business of we don't know whether we're going to be in person or hybrid or what, it's like we don't know where we're going on this wave, and I find that really hard.
Yeah. Anybody else either continuing with that or more ideas about just what it will mean to be back in the room or to return to some kind of teaching here in the fall? Yeah, Anita.
One of the things that I've observed from talking to some of my colleagues is that in the UK schools, I work particularly with 5s to 7s really in those schools, and there's this great emphasis on the children having to catch up everything that they've missed in terms of their maths and their English, and they're being really going to be worked hard in the autumn, I think. And I think our role as music teachers and Dalcroze teachers in particular is going to be absolutely vital, trying to keep that imaginative play, trying to give them a really rich learning experience, a joyful learning experience, because I'm really quite concerned for their little heads just being stuff rammed in to catch them back up to where they think they should have been. I don't think they can do that in 1 year. And I'm feeling a great personal responsibility towards those children to give them the most joyful of times, really, and learn. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's such critical work and something that we could, as a community, continue to try to improve on how we describe the value of that exact perspective that Anita's sharing there, that idea of sort of being able to keep play in the, in the culture that the students are involved in. I mean, truly, we see all sorts of scholarship, and we see all sorts of books coming out regularly now talking about the creative and the creative spirit and how to be the improviser at business, and all of these things that have to do with keeping play involved in your adult life, or how to sort of reinsert it back in. And as Dalcrozians, we have, from the beginning, this perspective that it should have never left to begin with. It's essential. And so how is it that, that we were raising adults that somehow forgot to play? And so I would love to, have more ways to describe that and talk about that and really put it on the pedestal that it belongs. It's a lovely way of wording it, Anita. Marlene, and then Veronica.
Yes, very quickly. At faculty meetings, I've brought up the point many times. The children haven't fallen behind. Don't look at it that way. They've learned other things. And so that was my contribution to the faculty meeting. Stop dwelling on the negative. There's a lot going on, positive.
Very good. Veronica?
This is a more detailed self-care question for everybody. I found that during the pandemic, I was trying to survive, and I spent so much time about the logistics of how to deliver the lessons or how to just have enough energy to get through what I had to get through, that often I'd be like, well, whatever the content of this lesson is, it's good enough, or I'm just gonna do what I did last week and try to tweak it. I don't have time to come up with something else. And so as we go back, and like Stephen is bringing up the idea of retransitioning, I'm thinking to myself, like, how do I give myself permission to maybe still keep doing that as I go back to the transition of in-person learning and get used to that? But at the same time, like, at what point do you create space to work on the actual content of what you're teaching, to take the time to reflect on your teaching methods and how, I mean, it's just been so like putting out fires, and not really continuing that growth as a teacher, which I think we all love to do, but it's just been hard. So I'm just wondering if people have thoughts on that.
Well, what it makes me think is that the idea of retraining or recharging and thinking of being able to think critically about my own teaching practice and how I prepare for a new year, trying to come in with something fresh and being ready. A lot of times my summer study is a big part of that. So like I break my regular school year routine. I get a couple weeks of summer study, at a training center or at a workshop or at a conference or or with a book that I might have found. And those are things that often in the past have been a big part of how I'm, getting excited about new things to initiate. The way things have been so upside down through the last year, I think most people had a hard time finding those kinds of scenarios. Although we do hope that the BDM provided a little bit of that for everybody, and hopefully you found some other online, ways of studying for yourself. So I think that's one. I think a second is that it would be unreasonable for any of us to think, oh yeah, the virus is over, get back to it. Like as though you're going to flip a switch and all of a sudden, we're just kind of back where we were and everything's fine. There's even if you get to go back in person without masks in sort of a normal logistics, it still won't be normal. It's going to be a while till we all calm down, till we can trust the new routines, and until the world starts to catch up, a bit with some of this. So I think we all have to just cut some slack here and allow it to take the time it takes. Mayita?
Yes. I have a question here, different. How do you manage your schedule? Because normally I teach in the afternoons, but now with the hybrid option and online and in person, some people who take classes from their home, they asking to me to put classes very early or in the afternoon. So my schedule is expanding, and I need to put some limit, but I don't know how to do this, because if I put limits, I won't have a lot of students and no money for me. It's hard to manage my mind, the new schedule, doing it in person and online teaching. It's very complicated because I will be working all day, or I don't know. How do you manage this?
Yeah, I don't know. We all can. I bet every person in this call could talk about the freelance life, and how when you have work, we feel the need to take the work because it's the work, and it's hard, and oftentimes for myself, it's taken many years and many cycles before I got enough that I could start to curate and push some jobs away or offer those jobs to somebody else that would take them. It's not an easy thing. I think a lot of us have spent a lot of years taking every job, and working crazy. But there is a balance that has to be found. And there is a point where even if the money is good, if you don't have your sanity, or you don't have enough mental energy left over to be creative, or to be there for the students, then there's a detriment. I don't know. Does anyone else have any ways of thinking about the freelance life? There's not an easy answer, I'm sure. I'm sure not. Veronica?
I'll throw in something. This past year, I had online flute lessons, and I knew that I wanted to do some outdoor in-person lessons when the weather was good. But to create a schedule that could adjust based on the weather for the students who wanted to come was crazy making. And so what I did is everyone had a regular time, Monday through Friday, that was online. And so they knew that they didn't have to drive anywhere and account for travel time. And then I would have these ad hoc days. This Saturday, in 2 days, I know the weather is good because it's 2 days away from now. I will be at this park. You can sign up for a lesson and just sign up between these 3 hours. And I had a Google sign up sheet. And so when they signed up for that lesson, that canceled their next online lesson so that I didn't have to work extra. But it didn't create a crazy schedule where I was have to readjust everything based on the weather. And so that worked really well. And if you want more details, I can write that out for you. But it's hard because, especially if like the families are going to change their mind 2 weeks from now, they'll be like, now I want to do it online. Now I want to come in person because I got scared and now I'm not scared again, like. But I think if you set up a schedule that already is gonna make you crazy all year, then like you're gonna hate your job by the end of the year. So that's also important, as
Yep.
important as making money.
Yep, it really is. We're getting close to the end here. We have time for maybe one or two. Does anything else that you want to sort of get in that was mentioned in your small group, or thoughts about returning? Anybody got a good dog picture? Adriana?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something about process versus product, which was I was struggling myself. Being European, I'm much more oriented to the process than to the product, because that's how I was raised. But I learned well, that product is as important as the process, for several reasons. The process is amazing and it's fantastic. But one thing, our students are grounded by a performance, are grounded by proficiency, gives them sense, gives them much more purpose. And I learned that when I was teaching Eurythmics for the Suzuki program. My Suzuki students were much more grounded and ready for the experiences that we had in Eurythmics, because they transferred it to their playing. And the students of the same age who were not doing not an instrumental, just experiential stuff, were not as grounded and as motivated. So that was my first step in developing a little bit more thinking about how important is that we have a performance of some sort, 3 notes, 4 notes, whatever it is. And also the product is teaching students how to prepare for a performance, how to finish a product. What does it take? So I learned to take time to value both, not speaking about for itself, but not speaking about the fact that the marketing power of it. Because when you market, you are not going to market an experience. Even for yoga, you do the sound salutation at the end. So you have an arrival point. So yeah, we can talk about that more because it's an endless subject.
It seems like a good one for a future meetup. I bet there will be a meetup in the fall about process versus performance or product. And I think it's good. Adriana, thank you. Veronica, we got an announcement or two to remind everybody?
Sign up for Jeremy's class. It's in 2 weeks as of tomorrow. And this one is a weird one. It happens on a Wednesday or a Thursday, not on the weekend. So just keep that in mind.
And if you've not worked with Jeremy before, he's great. He has super energy. He's very knowledgeable. He holds the diplôme supérieur, and he's. I mean,
you will probably be out of breath at the end of his class. It's like an aerobics class.
Any class in person with Jeremy is usually quite a bit. So show up ready to go. Definitely sign up. Tell your people to show up. And if you need scholarship assistance, follow the process on the website. I'm sure we can help you out.
And thank you to all of you who have donated to the scholarship fund. I know there's many people on this call who have made that contribution. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I think we're pretty much at the time. This is the 30th meetup, and we're so excited to continue to have a crowd, even at the end of an exhausting year on the last meetup of a summer. We hope that you all have a great rest of your July. We'll hope to see you in 2 weeks at Jeremy's class, and then a month off away from this, and then we're looking forward to who knows what the fall is going to bring. So we're looking forward to the fall, and we will do our best to keep offering some meetups and some master classes as long as there's interest. Thank you all. Thank you, Veronica, and thanks to Emma Shubin, and thanks to all of you. Have a
Thank you.
really good day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anita. Happy summer.
Thank you.